Hi HR Nation, it's Chris Rainey. Welcome to HR Leaders, the show where we interview today's most successful and innovative HR practitioners. Today's guest is Quentin Naylor. Quentin is the Group People Director at THG. Quentin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Chris.
Thank you for joining us. Quentin, tell HR Leaders a little bit more about yourself and your journey to becoming the Group People Director at THG.
Sure. I've got a fairly unconventional background in HR, to be honest, but it's a background that's grounded in leadership, to be honest. I was an officer in the Gurkhas and the Rifles, served for 19 years and left as a lieutenant colonel. I fought in Iraq as a company commander and also commanded a company of Gurkhas in Bosnia. So I had an experience of leading small teams in fairly tricky environments. So I've done everything really from raiding houses at the night in downtown Basra to jungle warfare. And then after I left, I then joined Goldman Sachs. Again, a step completely into the unknown, working in derivatives, margin evaluations, and latterly in employee relations, where I really got a taste for the people side and the complexity of the people side as an HR professional. I'd worked in India as well, and so it was a background forged really in sort of high pressure environments, really where things change a lot. And really, to be honest, at THG, it's just like that. It's high pressure, high growth, changing the online retail world really at a fairly frightening pace.
Mm-hmm. And what is it that attracted you to the HR, the world of HR?
Well, it was one of those moments when you think, this is an area where maybe it's taken me far longer than anybody else to work out where you have a unique skill set. And I think it's, some people are great at numbers, some people are great at code, some people have an intuition for people and the complexity of people and understanding how to navigate people issues. And I think when you find your area where you can add value, it's best just to reinforce that.
Mm-hmm. And given your background serving in the army, what skills do you think have now helped you in HR that's transferred over?
I think a resilience, definitely a resilience to cope with pressures and strains and change. Because a life in the army was always about change, always about the unpredictable, always about coping with the unpredictable, and having clearly able to make decisions within that. So I think that's what business leaders need, is they need somebody who can keep calm and provide clear support to decision making.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And with such a fast-growing business and an ever-changing business, what really occupies your mind on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, it's always people. It is always people. Often the way to dealing with the people issue is not a straight line, and no matter where they are, we've got offices now all the way from Gold Coast, Australia, to Salt Lake City, via Ukraine, Berlin, London. There's always something going on somewhere involving somebody. So I think my aim is to always navigate the best outcomes, both for people but also for the business as well, and that's always a fine balance.
Definitely. And where you are now with the various projects, transformations you're going through, acquisitions, could you share one of the projects or transformations that you've been through that you're most proud of?
Yeah, I think I could share probably two. The first was setting up THG Academy, and we realized that we have a really highly talented young population here in THG, average age of about 27.
Oh, really?
A lot of them coming for their first job. A lot of them promoted very rapidly into leadership positions, and we set up THG Academy to act as an accelerator, to see if we can short-circuit life experience, to see if we can short-circuit leadership experience into some really talented young people who are now operating at a really senior level. We've got a 27-year-old CEO for one of the businesses. We've got a 26-year-old CMO, and the truth is these people are doing really well. They're doing really well, and what we can provide them is support, guidance, leadership training that will equip them to be successful at any level.
Mm-hmm. And who are the stakeholders that are involved in that, putting that together?
It was a great buy-in from the top. Essentially, when I came to THG, it was kind of one of those moments where you think, if I don't do this, I'm going to look back in 2 or 3 years and say, well, what could have been? This is our organization. We've had 1,200 people in the last year. They've gone from 480 people 5 years ago to what's 3,700 now.
Wow.
It's really big growth, and say, there are bits here that we know that we could do better. So the opportunity set was as simple as that. Come and make these people better. and lead the people function. So that was that's what I think where the real value add is. It was a blind spot. It was a known blind spot, and they were able to fill it quickly.
Mm-hmm. With so many different businesses under the brand, what was the sort of biggest challenge that you faced putting together that new project, or that academy? Sorry.
Yeah, I think we focused initially on leadership, and now we're developing towards e-commerce training as well. So training people on the core marketing skills that make a great e-commerce business, but focusing on the right cohorts of people to get the right return. So it wasn't just a sort of a broad swathe brush towards everybody. It was, how can we target this to get the right outcomes, to target the right leaders we need to put in the right positions for the future. So creating a bench essentially that'll enable us to fuel the growth for the future. And we're making a lot of acquisitions. 4 acquisitions this year so far, and that comes with a lot of challenge as well, because we were initially based in Northwich, now we're based globally, and that brings challenges of its own.
Yeah, I can imagine. And could you, with so many different skill sets needed, and so many different business units, could you share some of the ways in which you address that and identify the different talent needs within the business?
Yeah, I think we have HR professionals embedded within the divisions, which is great. Okay. I have a very good relationship with all the CEOs of the various divisions, and even for a company as large as we are now, it's done on a person by person, day by day basis. It's it's very, very, very bespoke, because the needs of a division change through the year. The need, whether it's in the warehouse or whether it's on a frontline trader or a marketer, they're very different, and we need to make sure we get what we need when we need it. And I think we have to be selective.
No, I was assuming that would be the case with the different brands, the different business units, different needs you would have. I was wondering how on scale how you're going to keep up with that as the business grows, and are you embedding any technology into this process to help streamline that and help with the speed? Yeah,
we are starting to, and I think a year ago we could run an academy program of personally delivered sessions. I think now we're moving much more towards video, towards online, towards giving people bite-size, short duration chunks of guidance and leadership, and then backing that up with face-to-face leadership sessions and skills sessions. It wasn't just here's some great theory about what leadership works, but also is practical management skills about how do you manage a difficult performer, how do you have a difficult conversation, how do you negotiate a deal. Things like that, really, that were practical skills that people needed because they didn't have the experience behind them. And I think, what I'm seeing now is that the divisions themselves are coming up with their own ideas, their own initiatives that we can support. So scalability and automation is a huge challenge and an opportunity for us here. My aim is to meet the demand of a growing business without increasing the central cost base.
Sure.
It's real commerciality as part of it. So, across the HR function is how can we build scalability, how can we automate process, so the HR professionals are being used for real value add.
Great to hear. So where you are now, what impact have you seen the academy have on the business?
I think it's for those that we've really invested in, it's really helped retention. It's really helped retention of them, but also of their teams as well. I think we can see them operating more comfortably at a more senior level, and I think for the more junior people, when they come in, we give them an induction process, and also we give them these start skills in e-commerce, whether it's social media, whether it's pay-per-click, search engine optimization, and therefore they're able to be more effective more quickly. The upside is that they settle down and start to generate value more quickly, but also for us, they start to generate revenue for us more quickly.
Mm-hmm. And what advice would you give to other HR leaders who are in a similar position? In a company like your own, where they're constantly acquiring new companies, there's obviously the impact that has on the business, both culturally and the business itself strategically. What advice would you give to other HR leaders that are going for a similar process?
Probably 2 bits of advice. The first is the cultural bit is absolutely key, as you allude to, and don't rush it. When you acquire business, you acquire them for their talent largely.
Yeah.
For the quality of the people. Now, yes, some processes need to change when they roll up to a bigger organisation, but actually the core culture of that organisation is not something you can mess with quickly. So it takes time, it takes engagement, it takes effective communication, it takes good leadership. That's something I wish we could do better. We're doing the best we can. But get that bit right, and it's a match made in heaven. The second bit is good data. I created a people analytics function earlier this year, brought in a first-class mathematician who had no HR background, but was essentially a data analyst, and said, had good leadership skills. We'll pull a team together, automate, process map, and give us good quality data insight. And she's achieved that within 6 months now. And that's really valuable because it gives me quality insight to go to the business and say, right, here's an opportunity. Here's what we believe the return on investment is. I can't just come back with, well, this is a good idea. Let's just see if it works.
Just based on experience. Yeah.
Certainly at that scale. It's So as an example, we worked out that there was an attrition bump at about 2.5 years. As people went to take their experience with us somewhere else. And I said, okay, well, so we introduced milestones, and we've now got some wonderful rewards for people when they hit 3 years and when they hit 5 years, such as membership of our country club and spa that we own in Hale, or site vouchers and things like that. And this is, it's not just the value of the milestone itself, but it's the recognition of the value of service.
Fantastic.
And we were able to introduce that with good quality data on attrition, good quality data on an employee survey, pull that together, and it was something that might have taken in a slow-moving corporate a year to do. We did in 6 weeks.
Amazing. And I think that is really the power of data, isn't it? That you not just going on your experience, but you're also going, well, here's my experience, and this is what I feel. But here's the actual data that supports that. Yeah. So that's fantastic. So where you are now in your organisation, you've got so many obviously moving parts and always new things happening. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for improvement in the business, and how do you feel that HR can help deliver these objectives?
I think probably the opportunities for our talent are greater than the talent itself. So the key role, I think, is getting that talent ready to step up probably more rapidly than they think they can. Okay. We've shown that if you give somebody the right support and they step into a big position, they'll surprise you with how good they can be. But my sort of priming the pump with talent so that we can put them with our culture into support other organizations that we acquire is probably the key opportunity there, because we can get them operating commercially, effectively, efficiently, much more rapidly than if we didn't invest in that talent.
Mm-hmm. Great. And how are you managing the different cultures that you across the different businesses in terms of integrating that? What type of communication do the different businesses you have? Do they meet quite often, the different business units within the different companies, or do they operate very much independently? How does that work?
Well, some of them operate independently. So we have UK2, a tech company that we acquired in May, and they're operating a great business model in support of growing our data infrastructure, essentially. It's a very different company from a revenue and trading part of our organization, so they don't necessarily need to overlap.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
What we provide is an umbrella of our own culture. So we produced our own culture booklet. This is THG, that explained why we are the way we are, because to some people we're a bit bizarre. We are a little bit high casualty, high performance, high casualty, and I think we just need to explain why that was. So when we do this, we go around to these, we talk to individuals and groups and say, this is why we are. And some of this doesn't seem logical now, but let us just explain it. And as you see things happen, it'll start to make sense. We're very meritocratic, but we have a focus here on execution. So it really doesn't matter what education or background you've got. It's about what you deliver every day, which I think for some is a bit of a shock. But for me, it doesn't matter how much experience I had. It was, what was I going to deliver in the first 3 months of value, and on the basis of that, and then you can gain trust and traction, which allows you to do a whole lot more. Yeah,
that's quite a refreshing thing to hear you say, actually, that you focus on that, and not just what they've done in the past or their skill set, but what they can do moving forward, and obviously you providing them the support that they need. So I think a lot of companies should have a similar approach from that point of view.
Yeah, there are people who've come in and made a real I mean, the lady I brought in to head the people analytics, she'd been doing some work for me on space allocation since she arrived in October last year. But by December, I said, this is a really special talent, and actually she can do far more. And actually, have you thought about a move into our world? I think you've got leadership. I think you've got the technical skills. Yes, we can give you the rest of the HR professional skills. We can give you that, but actually you've got the raw talent there. Similarly, we had a computer scientist come to us from an investment bank, and within 6 weeks he'd produced something that was going to revolutionize the way we report and understand business intelligence. So it wasn't. I think the adage I use to people here is that every day it feels like you come to work and you jump off a cliff, and you're trying to work out how to fly on the way down.
It's so funny you say that. It's so funny you say that, because that's something I've been saying a lot recently to my friends. I usually use the plane example, not the cliff, but it's the same exact same thing, because a lot of my friends say, weren't you scared? Because I started in this industry at 17, got a part-time job at an events company, which is now the largest HR event in Europe, the HR Directors Business Summit. And I was there for 10 years, so I didn't go to university. I ended up going, I really like this, being on the phone every day, speaking to HR leaders, and it was never a boring conversation. And when I left to start this organization, it was the same thing. All of my friends were like, you're crazy, you've got a great job, what are you doing? You have no idea how to manage a company, And I was like, well, that's exactly why I'm leaving. I'm jumping out the plane, building my parachute on the way down, and that was the most exciting part about it. So yeah, I can definitely agree with you on that one.
And it's it's not for everyone. Some people want to clock in, clock out, do an 8 and skate, and they're not going to be right for us. Whereas some people kind of want to have that heady, slightly risky feeling of always being slightly outside your comfort zone. And I think that's good. And growth comes from outside your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
if you didn't have that approach, you would have missed out on some amazing talent, it sounds.
Yeah. And it's if you working with Matt Moulding, the group CEO, his level of ambition, his level of entrepreneurship is scary. It's scary to be alongside it, but actually you find you grow so much more quickly.
Yeah, I think I learned that. I wish I learned that earlier. When I became a manager, I wish I learned that earlier on, because some of the best people that I ever developed within our team had no desire or no thought of going into sales at the time, when I was a sales director. But coincidentally, one of the most high performing individuals, and actually a really good friend of mine now, a guy called Omri, he joined us straight out of the Israeli Armed Forces. Wow. And he came in, and I've never seen someone work so hard and challenge themselves so much. And it was funny how he would say, Chris, everyone here is sitting saying this is a stressful job. I've just come from the Israeli army as a medic. and he's like, and he literally was never phased. And I'd walk in the office he's there, I'd leave the office, he's still there. And it wasn't really, and he wasn't working hard. He just really loved the challenge. And every day it was, what can I do to improve myself? I was like, wow. And from that day onwards, whenever I had an interview with someone, I was no longer looking at their experience as much, or looking at what grades they got, etc. It was really about the individual and their attitude and the competitiveness, and looking at those traits. Yeah. And from there, we built a very, very powerful team, a very competitive team as well.
Yeah. When I hire, I hire less and less now for skills and experience, and more for judgment. Because if what I would do is I would talk to people about, here's a scenario, tell me what you think about this, tell me what you think about you'd approach it, because I can gain so much more from that than simply talking through someone's CV. I want get the judgment, particularly at the senior level, get the judgment bit right, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, because you can put whatever you want on the CV.
Yeah.
And it's only by having a conversation with someone and asking those type of questions, thought-provoking questions like you just mentioned, that you get you can really understand the individual. What excites you about your business today?
I think as we approach Q4, what's most exciting now is we head towards peak. So, if some of our business, like my protein, we're vertically aligned. So we do everything from take the raw ingredients, produce my protein, trade it, manufacture it, and then ship it. So peak for most of our sites in November through to the new year, Cyber Monday as well. It's a real surge in headcount to get additional labour into the warehouse to meet the demands of increased sales. So that's a huge focus right now. Not just increasing core numbers in the warehouse, but also working with agencies as well, and to build numbers there. And of course, this time of year for many online businesses, there's a competition for labour.
Sure. Now, I was always wondering about the MyProtein. So you manage the entire end-to-end of the product, including the manufacturing, the delivery, everything.
Yep. Yeah.
Is that all in the UK as well?
No, we have a manufacturing facility in Kentucky as well.
Oh, really?
That helps us produce this and ship it into the US, and we're also, we're looking to increase our distribution centres. We're building a warehouse in Poland as well to enable next day delivery. And this is not about Brexit; it's really about next day delivery, and particularly into Germany and eastern France. And really, our supply chain is a key part of our operation. It's a really key part of our operation.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was really surprised how fast and rapidly that the brand grew. For someone who goes to the gym and uses protein every day, the brand almost came out overnight. I had friends of mine saying, "Have you tried this website?" And all of a sudden, I was getting loads of messages from friends of mine that go to the gym saying, "This is such an easy, convenient way of getting protein and fantastic prices and obviously, of course, very good products." But it almost came out of nowhere.
I think that's because we're vertically aligned, right? Because we own everything from the raw material through to the fulfillment. It means that we can innovate really quickly. So new product development we can get from in 6 weeks from. Wouldn't it be a good idea trading on MyProtein to introduce a new flavour for our Japanese market called matcha? We did that, got it in place really quickly, and now it's selling really well in Japan. And so Japan, Korea, the Asia market is really growing there. And I think it's the speed at which we can do things that's core to our culture. And MyProtein is the world's number one online sports nutrition brand now. So, and it's taken a lot of work. And wonderfully led by Andy Duckworth, the CEO. But it's a great team with a great brand.
I didn't realise you're now number one online. Wow. Yep. Who's in number two? Optimal Nutrition?
Maxi or people like that, But I think it's the ability to open new markets, and so we can open a new market in a new country really quickly. We're about to launch MyProtein into India. That's been
that's going to be amazing.
Two people and the project of one really talented person that we brought over from India. She's making it. One of these people that just executes every day, makes a difference, and we'll see that grow.
Great. So, how far in advance do you normally prepare for the Christmas rush and the sales, etc.? How far in advance does HR need to get going? I've always wanted to ask that question.
It's months. It's many months. If you do it too soon, you get people in too soon. You end up paying for them, and you don't have the ship out. So it's a fine commercial balance. But certainly things like cross training, things like discussions with agencies, getting people trained so we can have some flexibility around inbound, outbound, kitting, things like that. That's where we build L&D plays a big part in that. It's building the bedrock, getting drivers trained in manual handling and things like that. It creates the foundations from which you can then bolt on agency workers to reinforce.
And I'm assuming all of those processes are transferable across all the different businesses you have, which is great.
Yes, it is one fulfillment for whatever of our 140 odd websites. There's one fulfillment operation.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So all the sites, all their traffic, all their orders flow into one system, one warehouse management system we've got, and we fulfill the orders in one place.
Oh, wow, I wasn't aware of that. That makes perfect sense. Makes it a lot more lean, easier to manage, easier to view, of course. I understand you've got what are some of the new brands that you've introduced into the business?
A couple of weeks ago, we acquired Glossybox, which is Europe's leading sort of beauty box company, essentially, and based out of Berlin. And a really, really lovely brand. You subscribe to get a box once a month. You have this great unboxing moment where you open the box and you've got these 5 products in the box. And this, what I've noticed, going over there, working with them, is this great relationship they have with their customers. It's not just a box that turns up; it's a whole experience.
Sure.
And so we've been working with them. We've had Hangar 7 was a company we acquired in in April. This is a creative design agency. We figured we need to do more video. We need to, grow meet our marketing demands. And so bringing a really innovative company like Hangar 7 in to grow our video content, to grow our online content, to work closely with them has been a huge success. And then even last week, the acquisition of RY, which is an Australia-based skincare company and based out of Gold Coast. So that's what's keeping me up in the morning. Is we've got people over there and looking to integrate them and us and migrate the sites onto our platform.
Great.
Takes a fair bit of work.
Fantastic. And one thing I was going to ask as well, when you look at acquiring a business, do you also look at what skills that brings to the rest of the organization and the capability? For example, you bring in the advertising company. Was that part of when you looked out at companies? Were you looking at what skills can that bring in house and how can that benefit the other organizations that you have under the umbrella?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely key. We looked at somebody who had a company that had the same sort of culture as us, same sort of really successful execution and growth, great relationships, and they're a specialist design agency. We have our internal creative department. They do a lot of stuff far better than us, and so we say, great, come and help us be better, and let's all get better. And I think we're doing exactly that. We're taking the very best of what they have and saying, okay, let's also grow the business to support in the business, but actually internally, your processes and systems and your execution, your operation is really sound. We wouldn't have acquired it if it wasn't, and it's been a real success.
Mm-hmm. Great. And you personally, coming from a non-traditional HR background, what type of, for your own learning, where do you sort of gather information and gain knowledge? Is it internally in the business, having conversations? Do you have any sort of online portals that you use to keep up to date with current events? How do you sort of continuously develop yourself? I
think twofold is firstly is learning about e-commerce and the business here. I share an office with all the other CEOs and the CFO, and I learn a huge amount from them. And then secondly, in terms of the broad HR world, is a really strong HR network of HR professionals from London, from India, from the US, and people I've worked with in the past who are always happy to share advice, and you can bounce ideas off. And I find really so the HR network is a really powerful one.
Mm-hmm. And how have you gone about building that? Is it just really through the different? Do you have you mentioned you have a HR representative within each business unit, but are you also looking outside of the organisation in terms of that network?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I try to. I think every leader's responsibility is to help people below them broaden their network, because when you give somebody a better network, they can then leverage discretionary effort from other people, and it makes everybody that much more successful. So, networking is a misused term, but actually what it acts as a catalyst for greater productivity. They're really good at establishing networks, enabling those better relationships creates better work.
Fantastic. Well, that leads us nicely on to the quickfire round, where I'm going to ask you 5 questions.
Sure.
And you have no more than 30 seconds to give us some amazing answers.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
What was the number one thing that was holding you back from becoming a leader in the field of HR?
I suppose as a veteran, there's always a sense you're a bit weird. And
really?
When set against the real world. But I kind of learned that this is okay, that everyone's actually a bit weird in their own way. So don't let your own background think that you need to conform. Just be yourself. And if yourself is right for a company, it's right. And if it's wrong, you're right somewhere else.
Don't force to fit.
Yeah.
Perfect. What's the best piece of business advice that you've ever received?
Well, it wasn't quite business advice. I was working for a general called Sir Bill Rollo as his executive officer, and he said to me in a sort of, in his typical way, stay on the log. And his analogy was, look, when it's tough, it's like carrying a log up a hill as a team, and people will fall by the wayside, but don't give up, right? And keep going. And if you're at the top, you're still on the log. You'll get recognized for being sticky and for having resilience. So, working at THG is really tough. It's really tough. It's a full-time, fully immersive, transformational relationship. It's going to be when a company's growing at 45% a year, and it will feel overwhelming, but stay on the log. Stay, don't let the little things get to you. Just stay with it.
Great advice. And I think I asked you this a moment ago, but share one internet resource that you use to increase your productivity or stay in tune with current events?
Definitely LinkedIn. I think as a veteran coming out, there's a great resource there. And I think people are really willing to support and advise as people go through transition. I mean, veteran transition takes about 5 years. And also as you move jobs and you stay in touch with, I think LinkedIn is fantastic.
Great. And what's one thing within your business? I think I asked you this earlier as well, but what that excites you the most? There's so many different things you're doing. If there's just one,
I think as we get bigger, we can start to attract more talent, and then that allows us to do more. So it's the attracting of the right talent that doesn't necessarily think it might be ready, isn't the finished article. It might be a bit weird like the rest of us, but actually, what you can do with that talent.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to put a message out there to people thinking about working for your business, what would that be?
Bring your whole self. Bring your whole self. Be prepared for an immersive experience. Don't worry about what you know and what you don't know. Don't be a robot. Have a view. Everybody's expected to have a view here, no matter whether you're at the bottom or the top of the organization. People buy into the person long before they buy into the plan. That's important.
I'm definitely going to steal that last part from you. You've given us some actionable advice, and I really appreciate that. I know our members will be a lot better off for it, so thank you for that. Give our listeners one parting piece of guidance, and also the best way to contact you.
I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to find me there. I think the key bit of advice is hire for judgment, not for skills. And you get a seat at the table as an HR professional, not through technical ability, but your ability to influence outcomes. And that means both doing stuff, but having really good judgment as well.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you again. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us. Guys, make sure you head over to hrleaders.com. There you'll find all of the show notes on the episode, everything that we've been talking about, timestamps, links. One question I did forget from you: if there is a book that you could recommend to our members, what would that be?
Right. Make Your Bed. Make Your Bed by Admiral William McRaven. It's about leadership and success. It's about doing the small things. Leadership for me, and it's a core part of my background, is about what you do in the moment, every moment, and actually getting little things right, and being resilient is a key part to being successful.
Fantastic. Well, look, Quentin, thank you again for sharing your journey, and I wish you all the best on your journey.
Thank you very much.
And all the acquisitions you'll be making, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Take care. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks a lot.